Open your eyes. Wake up, Link.
You are our final hope. The fate of Hyrule rests with you. I'm sorry. I can't hold him.
The Legend of Zelda is a multi-decade franchise that we all know at this point. It involves a guy in a green, blue, or wolf. Sometimes the series can look like this, or like this, or like this.
Link, go to Gamelon and find my father.
Great! I can't wait to bomb some Dodongos!
But one thing remains the same. These games contain epic stories and exciting adventures.
Monsters know better than bothering me. Here's a shroud that scares the wraps off Gibdo.
Okay, some of them. Okay, like, only the main series games? I mean, at least the story's okay. Fuck! Okay, so nothing is ever consistent in this series. Even the art style changes from game to game, but this series is iconic without a doubt. So, when they announced Breath of the Wild, I, for one, was absolutely not interested at all. Not even in the slightest. But then I played it this year, and oh my fucking god, look at that! This is amazing! You can climb this, and you can glide off of that, and you can play just the Twink, and oh my god! Needless to say, I was impressed. I've wanted to make a Zelda video for so long since playing Breath of the Wild, but nothing really stuck with me for a topic. And then, this came out, and I was all like... I don't need to rant on for hours about how excited I am to jump back into the world of Hyrule with Link by my... Wait, what? Why is he being grabbed by that hand thing? Why is Zelda only in these shots? Am I gonna get to play as my girl? My girl Zelda? Oh my god, no way! I need to analyze this right fucking now! Alright, new plan. Instead of trying to theorize about the moral ambiguity of Beetle's merch shop being the only successful traveling merchant due to a dark background of merchant duels and bug fighting, we're going to cover this instead. Today, I'm going to examine and explain the trailer from The Legend of Zelda and the as-yet unnamed sequel. But first, let me recap Breath of the Wild for those who didn't play it or don't remember it that well, because we're going to need this background. Okay, let's start out with this first. The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild is not in any singular timeline in the Zelda lore, so we're not going to pretend it is. All we know is that it comes after Ocarina of Time, references Twilight Princess, Wind Waker, Ocarina of Time, The Link to the Past, and Skyward Sword. How does it fit in? I don't fucking know, but I just kind of assume at this point that the timelines just had a convergence eventually, and yes, I am well aware that that is not how time works, but I'm not sure Nintendo is, so who cares? Recap. 10,100 years ago, Link and Zelda, but not any Link and Zelda we've met or know too much about. Yes, I'm going to say that it's Link and Zelda, but let's not get into that debate. That's one for an entirely other time. They, with the help of the Sheikah, fight Calamity Ganon and seal him away for 10,000 years using the Divine Beast, the Guardians, Zelda's Triforce Piece, and the Master Sword. Years pass and the Guardians and the Divine Beast get fossilized in the ground, which, by the way, takes 10,000 years according to Google, but hey, I don't have magic, so I'm not going to argue it. Also, keep this in mind, it comes up later. There's an era of peace and then a prophecy telling of Calamity Ganon's return in 10,000 years. Eventually, the Zelda we know in Breath of the Wild starts preparing for this, so she tracks down 4 champions to assist her in a battle against Ganon. First is Rivali, a Rito archer who's a smartass, but great with flying and shooting. Daruk, a Goron strongarm who's known as a hero throughout his own village. Mipha, a Zoran hero who's the heir to the royal throne, passing it on to her younger brother Sidon and devoting herself to fight by Zelda and her crush Link, who hasn't come in yet, side. Finally, Urbosa, a Gerudo who has a long history with Zelda and the royal family, and who I personally think has a romantic interest in Zelda. Honestly, it's kind of just so obvious, and okay, you know what, we're just gonna get back on track. Eventually, Zelda is assigned the son of a knight, Link, who manages to wield the Master Sword. We never see this, but assume it was epic and harrowing. Zelda hates him because he reminds her of her own insecurities about her part of the prophecy. Zelda, disliking the company of the young fighter reminding her of her own failures, yells at Link, telling him to stop following her. Alas, he does not. We then see Zelda asleep against Urbosa, and come on, this is Shippide Unuma. Whatever. Anyway, we see the awful burden that Zelda has taken on, thinking that she's the only one who can stop Ganon, and not wanting to trust others with what she sees as her destiny alone. Urbosa, while holding a sleeping Zelda, illuminates on the situation for Link, who finally understands her mindset and gives her the space she desires. Before he can give her too much of that space, though, the Yiga clan, a group of Sheikah that split off to serve under Calamity Ganon after the king was all like, hey, fuck you, I don't trust you protecting us and all that shit, attacks Zelda at the Karakara Bazaar. Link interferes and shows her that he's not only good with his sword, but can be trusted to protect her. More monsters appear, making Zelda uneasy. Link starts showing a startling lack of care for his own health. Weary of this, she tries to instruct him to not get himself killed, something that I'm 100% sure will never come up later at all. Later, Zelda and Link are hiding beneath a tree from the rain, and Zelda tells Link herself that she does not have faith, because she's not been able to harness her birthright, the magic to seal Ganon away. Link does the whole silent comfort thing that he always kind of does, and the scene carries on. We then find out that Zelda's dad is an abusive asshole, who doesn't want Zelda to save the world, I guess, because he's like, go throw yourself in bodies of water, you bitch! And Zelda's like, no. King says,
but I am your daddy, man. Go do this thing now.
No, fuck you.
What? Listen here, young lady. You're going to fucking baptize yourself, or so help me, I'm gonna...
Gonna do what? Punish the girl with the power to seal away the darkness? Remember that time that you fucking swore off a group that could also seal away Ganon, and then they turned into Ganon-worshipping assholes? No, but that's how it should have gone. Instead, she lets it get to her. Her and Link go to the Spring of Power, she curses the gods, and comes back down. She then tries to go to the Spring of Wisdom, and nothing happens. Well, Ganon returns, but nothing of consequence, because they got like 4 giant mechs, a fuck ton of attack spiders, and a twink with a sword. What could go wrong? After all, there's no way he could emerge from under the castle, kill everyone inside, flood the world with malice, take over the Guardians, destroy the fields, take over the Divine Beast, kill the champions, send a hunting squad after Zelda and Link, corner Zelda in Kakariko Village, kill Link, and doom the world. After doing all those things, Zelda sent her best foot soldiers to take Link to the Spring of Respawn, returned the sword to the stone, talked to a tree, went to the castle, and had the longest bondage session in all of Hylian history. 100 years later, the twink wakes up, and, in the good ending, which we're going on, he gets the beasts, makes friends with the bird who doesn't help him, frees the bird who's a dick, and then he shoots a laser at Ganon, and Ganon's all like,
Oh shit, fuck, that's brisk.
Then he meets a Goron, who doesn't help him, frees his old bro from college, and then shoots a fucking laser at Ganon, and then Ganon's all like,
Oh fuck, there's 2 of them now. What's going on?
a girl who actually does something, frees Zelda's old fling, then shoots a fucking laser at Ganon, who is now freaking out and is all like,
Oh fuck, I think I might be in a tiny bit of trouble.
and then, oh, hi. Man, is anyone else suddenly in the mood for some fish sticks? I love fish sticks. Then they shoot a laser at Ganon, and Ganon's all like,
Holy earlier, that fucking blessing of a fishman's sister is shooting me with a fucking laser! Ah!
Link then storms the castle, brings Ganon out of an early vacation, fights him, and Ganon thinks he may have the upper advantage because of the whole like size thing, but then the Divine Beasts are like, hey Ganon, remember the fucking Thunderblight? This is revenge! And then they shoot a fucking laser at him, and he's all like,
God damn it!
and then he dies. No, I'm kidding, he doesn't die, but at this point we could honestly like replace all of the champions with like a cat owner. Link then finishes this form off. He then goes to a whole other form, then Zelda like slash TPs Link to beast form Ganon in the console, and then he poofs over. Zelda then informs Link that Ganon gave up all of his respawns for this final form, which, might I add, is completely different from the Japanese version of the game, which, according to the wiki, says that Zelda says that the form was born out of his obsessive refusal to give up on revival. So, we're going to be using the Japanese version for this theory instead, because I'm pretty sure that the Japanese game studio is going to write the Japanese game based off of the Japanese dub of the original Japanese game, so we're just going to go on that. He shoots Ganon with magic light powers, and then Ganon dies. Credits roll, and we're done. The game is so interesting, and it raises so many story questions, but now that we're caught up, what of this lore has me thinking I can predict the story being told in the trailer. Obviously, I can't know all the story, but I feel confident that we can at least predict parts of it, as well as parts of the past. Here we go. After watching those trailers, those around me instantly went into theory mode, but none more than myself. It's Ganon, I said. It's Demise, said others. I didn't know who that was, so I did a crash course on lore for the next couple of days and went maybe, and then went no, it's still Ganon. But after a week of fighting and watching other theories and crafting my own, the idea still never changed. And here's what I've got for you. So, from this trailer, we see someone trapped in the catacombs of Hyrule Castle. Or, at least we're led to believe it's the catacombs of Hyrule Castle. After all, the ending scene is literally them walking through a tunnel, and then Hyrule Castle rising, and then the ground beneath Zelda's feet breaking away. So, under the castle is a safe bet. So, who is this figure? Why are they being grabbed and pinned by that hand? What's this all about? Well, I have an idea. Meet Ganondorf! Not Calamity Ganon, not Demise, just Ganondorf. Note the similarities to Twilight Princess / Ocarina of Time Ganondorf, because this will be referenced way later on. We know that Calamity Ganon was defeated in Breath of the Wild by Zelda using her weird black hole magic to destroy him. So, how is he out here causing all this fuckery? Let's think back to the lore I told you about before, starting with the Great Calamity. The Great Calamity was caused by Ganondorf becoming Calamity Ganon, a monster with the only thoughts being that of destruction and chaos, made of malice and hatred, something that we see plenty of in Breath of the Wild as a physical object forming a toxic goo. He was defeated by the ancient Hero of Calamity, as I'm choosing to call him because no one's given him a name yet, and the princess of that time. He was sealed away. So, like, how? Where? Why? Who was he before that? So, for this answer, we're going to go to a cutscene that happens when you free Urbosa's spirit.
Sits upon my tongue, but that is now in the past. It was written that Calamity Ganon once adopted the form of a Gerudo. And that will make this victory all the more satisfying. I like that. Now I can take this personally.
On the first playthrough, you assume that they mean Twilight Princess or Ocarina of Time Ganondorf, but that can't really be the case in my mind. After all, if they forgot about the big hulking creatures 10,000 years ago and found them by complete accident, then how do they remember a legend that clearly? Like a good chunk of Hyrule was killed or destroyed. After Ocarina of Time, you either flood the world, or you get sent into Twilight torture, or Pig Ganon, I guess? Fucking what? The timelines are so fucking weird. What is this game series thing? God! Either way, Breath of the Wild is at least 10,000 years after anything else in this timeline. They do not remember this shit. Even Impa says that each conflict with Ganon has faded into legend. I cannot stress this enough. Even Impa gets the prophecy slightly wrong if you translate the scroll, and that's her native fucking language! Seriously, the titles may still be alive, but the legends are definitely tainted by now. I know that books exist in this universe, but considering that Zelda doesn't even research links to the past to find a fucking way to seal Ganon, is fucking indicative to the Miiverse levels of archiving that this world does. So, back on track. This is Gerudo Ganon from 10,000 years ago, hence explaining the getup. So the whole who is he thing can be marked off here. He was a Gerudo that probably hated the discrimination and wanted to take over Hyrule like the Ganondorfs before him. Now, on to the second part. How is he here? We just saw him die in Breath of the Wild, right?
No, that's wrong.
Let's take a closer look at Calamity Ganon now that we know where he came from. How did this become this? This is a bit more tricky of a subject to cover. I don't know how the events actually went down, but one theory is that because Ganondorf is still a Gerudo in this form, he somehow figured out how to separate himself from his body and enter a new form, like we see in Twilight Princess. Wait. You know where else we see this in Breath of the Wild? Thunder, wind, fire, and water blight Ganon forms. We also see a floating head that's called Calamity Ganon, but when we fight him, it's this weird thing. So the how is pretty clear now, I guess. A long time ago, Ganon pieced together that he was too easily defeated when he was going in head first. So, just like in Twilight Princess, he used his magic to separate himself from his own body. How did he do that? Malice. After all, those eyes throughout Hyrule are still just his eyes. And like in the new trailer, look at the eyes. That's him! The Blights! That's him! The Guardians taken over by Malice. That's also him! Ganondorf using his magic and Malice, creating beings using the darkness we see moving and shifting throughout the world. We even see it in the new trailer, traveling up the stairs and coming from Ganondorf's form in this shot. Holy shit! So, how did he become Calamity? Through the clever use of Malice and magic, the Calamity form we fight in Breath of the Wild is just yet another form of Ganon projecting himself away from his own body. But what proof do I have of this? Wild claim, you ask. How can I prove that Ganondorf, who I'm claiming is trapped in the catacombs of Hyrule Castle, unsealed himself enough to invade Hyrule with Malice? I present the King of Hyrule.
To know Calamity Ganon's true form, one must know the story from an age long past. The Demon King was born into this kingdom, but his transformation into Malice created the horror you see now. He appeared from deep below Hyrule Castle, seized control of the Guardians and the Divine Beasts, and turned them against us.
So, he came from deep below Hyrule Castle, and Malice turned him into the form you see before you. At this point, Malice is becoming its own character, and I'm really curious if we're just going to see that angle at some point, like, suck the Malice out of Ganon. I'm kidding. That's probably not going to happen, but if it does, I called it. I think I have more than enough proof that Ganondorf has the ability to leave his form thanks to the Malice, his main form came from below the castle, and that this is Ganondorf. But how did he get sealed there? This is the fun part, because I'm going to tell you my personal nightmare. Something that has been floating around in my head for the last week, and I want to tell you this story. The story of the Sheikah, their technology, innovation, and ruthlessness. "10,000 years ago, the Sheikah noticed the legend of Ganondorf and his many attempts to destroy Hyrule. Noticing this pattern, a plan is put into motion by the Sheikah. They built the Guardians, the Divine Beasts, the Shrines, a motorcycle, and their slate. The slate has the ability to create bombs from light, lift metal objects, freeze and suction water into a tower of solid ice with enough force to lift a solid metal door, and lastly, freeze objects in place, but only momentarily. Enter Ganondorf, a mage from the Gerudo Desert who wants to take over Hyrule for some reason or another. He gets close, but fails due to Sheikah's amazing technology. He gets angry and realizes he cannot defeat them with his body or else he'll die. So, he beast modes on them, and becomes the form known as Calamity Ganon. I will assume that this took a long time because that thing is fucking huge and terrifying. So he starts wrecking shop and destroys a good chunk of the world. The Sheikah use the Divine Beast to damage Calamity Ganon, and then Zelda and Link get to work. They rush this form, fighting it with over 200 Guardians backing them on every side. The Divine Beast is blasting him, and he realizes soon that he cannot win. So he runs and hides, but it's too late. Calamity is defeated, and now he's enemy number 1. Weakened and unable to fight this great technology, Ganondorf is captured by the Sheikah and use their weapons to imprison Ganondorf below the castle, guarded by Guardians, the Divine Beasts, the tower that scans the lands for signs of his return, and the Sheikah themselves. Of course, eventually Ganondorf would escape due to his Triforce of power, so they needed to subdue him. They placed a seal on his body that kept him perfectly still, forever. Hooked up to a big machine like we see in the trailer that is keeping him in stasis, just like how the tablets can freeze enemies. Of course, the slates are small. They wouldn't be able to pack a big punch, unlike a machine the size of a big room. The timer on that could last anywhere from 10 seconds to 10,000 years. But in that time, Ganondorf could still die. Nothing was stopping him from dying of starvation, just stopping him from moving. So then the Sheikah did something absolutely chilling. Have you ever noticed the color of the spirit powers in Breath of the Wild? I'm gonna assume not. Daruk is orange because Daruk's shield is orange. Urbosa is yellow because lightning strikes. But Mipha's blue. Do you know why? It's because of healing. Health is often associated with blue and red. And do you know what other magic properties a slight blue tint in Breath of the Wild? This hand. My theory is that it was so much easier to trap Ganondorf than to kill him. If he dies, he can come back. He always does. So how do you deal with an enemy who comes back every time they die? You never kill them. Ever. The Sheikah preserved him using stasis and healing, just keeping him barely alive forever, trapped in the dark beneath the castle, leaving him in his own mind to go crazy for 10,000 years. Hatred left to boil, malice left to grow. A magic user who knows how to separate himself from his body, using his hatred and malice alone. Do you know what would happen after 10,000 years? He would be absolutely livid. So, he separates himself from his body, creates a wave of malice to seep out of the castle and draw in monsters. Monsters spread fear, fear spreads hate, and hate creates an anger for him to feed on. More and more until finally he has enough to create a makeshift body powerful enough to ravage Hyrule. A return once more for Calamity Ganon, from under the castle, killing everything in sight, until Zelda seals away his body and he's left frozen again, defeated. That is, until a princess starts poking around where she shouldn't. Now, with this new sequel, my prediction is that we will see Ganondorf freed finally. We will see chaos and havoc unlike anything else in this series. Demise was just a demon king. But Ganondorf shall be an angry god upon Hyrule. Maybe I'm just looking into this too much, or maybe that's the story, but that's what's been stuck in my head for a while. Of course, it's just a theory at the end of the day, and you know what, I may be bad at this, who knows? I used to help the FNAF community back in the day, but it's been so long since I've done that kind of theory crafting. Hopefully this is at least something to give you thoughts about, something that you can think about. I tried to support my claims, and if you have anything to prove or deny my theory, then please leave it in the comments down below. If you feel like you have enough to make your own video, then please do, and send it to us at our Twitter at FeatherfallYT on Twitter. If you feel like you want more videos like this, then please let us know down below as well. Feel free to support us on Patreon or buy our merch, as that goes to supporting the channel, and considering that YouTube demonetized us recently, we kind of need it. This is a super long video, and maybe the longest video I have ever made in my entire life. I want to know that this isn't going to just go to waste, so please, share it with your friends on Twitter or post it on Reddit, put it on Facebook, I don't care, just share it around. There's that Discord group that you want to spam anyway, just go add everyone. Don't add everyone, please don't. Let this get out there, because I think that this idea, this theory, is at least worth talking about outside of my own friend group. Thank you all so much for watching. Thanks to Mirrormage for being our highest tier patron, and thank you, Aonuma, for giving me something to get excited over. I am Emile, and I'll see you around.